In our last session, we introduced the idea that we're going to look at what John the Baptist is teaching to ask ourselves what it means to truly be saved and truly to be in a relationship with God. John gives this incredible challenge as we begin to unpack his message, is having warned the religious leaders to flee the coming wrath. He makes it clear that we need to show that we have repented and turned to God by the way that we live. And the question we're asking is, does that relate directly to what it means to be saved, or is it more about our witness and our walk? And over church history, over the centuries, this has been a theological debate around the idea of being once saved, always saved. So I want us to unpack some questions to help us consider this for ourselves. But the first question we have to ask is, why do we need to be saved in the first place? John answers this challenge in what he's already said to the religious leaders about fleeing from the coming wrath. Because what John is very aware of and what he is making plain is something that Jesus makes plain when he arrives and he begins to teach, and something that we see the early church unpacking even further. And it's this question of our eternal destiny. When we talk about being saved, it means we're actually being rescued from something. And when we talk about it as Christians and we talk about salvation or being saved, what we're talking about is our eternal destiny, our eternity, where we will spend eternity. And the Christian life is more than just the here and now. When we are reaching out for people to come into a relationship with God, we're looking at where we will spend eternity. And this issue comes down to the very heart of the human condition. We understand that as Christians, we understand there's something about the world that is evil, and there's something about the world that is sinful. There's something about our own hearts which are sinful, and there are things within our own lives where we have experienced or been part of what we might consider to be evil. Things that are contrary to both the heart and the will of God. And if we want to sort of understand what do we mean by that, then for each of us we can probably look and see the effects of sin and the effects of evil, not only in our lives but in the lives of people that we love, or even in the world in general. If you put on the news, you can see the pain and the damage that sin and evil causes around the world. Injustice, the wars, the bloodshed, the famine, the sense of the world being in turmoil, where some people have the ability to do something about it, but actually the acts of some people against others cry out for justice. And we live in a world that cries out for justice. We live in a world that says it's not fair. And we live in a world that says, where is God? If God is really there, why does he allow these things to happen? And often we hear the world blaming God. I referred a few weeks back to listening to Stephen Fry in an interview saying he can't believe in a God who causes so much pain and suffering and injustice. And so often the world attributes that sin and evil to God and says, why does God allow these things? So my question to you today is, who is going to carry the can for the wrong things that you've done in your life? Do you want to carry that can for yourself, or will you accept the offer of salvation from that judgment that awaits?